Uh, so about 2000 or so, I was on that island in Maine working for the summer, not knowing what my future was. And I said, you know, I kind of want to get back to Manchester and make a life for myself. I was in my early 30s. So I came back, got a job, lasted for 9 years in construction and architecture, got involved with the Chamber of Commerce Downtown Committee, got appointed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the youngest chairman in the history of the city, and the least litigious. Thank you very much. Can't take that away from me. And then I just got involved, and I started to see like a resurgence and a renaissance. And like, you moved here from San Francisco, you moved here from Denver, you moved here from Spokane or Eugene, Oregon, or Portland, whatever. Like, why Manchester, New Hampshire from those world-class cities? And it's because of the culture. We have a river that runs through it. We're an hour away from everything. Taxes are great place to raise a family. And keep in mind the Boston effect, if you will. You go a little bit north of Concord, and it's middle America. It's all farmland and logging land and beautiful. White Mountains, Green Mountain State next door to us. Boston's a world-class city. Some of the best concerts are held in Boston. Some of the best live DVDs are from Boston. I've been to a few. So I just decided to put my feet down and make the best I could by getting involved and being in the community. Community activist, if you will. Did that for about 15 years and kind of ran my course at that, opened a lot of doors, made a lot of connections, and now those connections are supporting my business. So for all the younger folks watching this, the time you spend getting to know I call you guys the future leaders of this city, it's time well spent, because it's amazing how many people come in my store that say, oh, hi, Steve. Remember we were on that downtown committee with, the chamber or that event, this event. I'm like, wow, yeah, that was a long time ago, but they don't forget, and they know that you're a community player, and it's where I want to make my home, keep my home.
Absolutely. So Angela's has a very strong reputation in the city, and I think a lot of people who are coming here and working and deciding to live in Manchester, they stumble upon Angela's and they think it's this hidden gem. It's really not hidden to those who, as you said, have invested in the community and have been a part of this community. So for those folks who may have recently relocated to Manchester and the surrounding area, what is, in your opinion, the secret sauce behind Angela's that really makes it such a standout institution in the city?
I'd say it's the customer service we pride ourselves on, and our product selection, which I kind of took for granted all these years because it was what I liked and what I wanted, so I shopped here. But now I realize that there's nothing else like it for many miles, many towns away. And I do believe part of the reason I was excited to buy it is a hidden gem. Those who know about it well, but I think they kind of protect it too, because they don't want to wait for more than 5 minutes to check out. But since I've taken it over, done a lot of social media and gotten a lot of great press, people from all over the state are coming, and I had no idea, oh, you have this product. And, I'm just like, wow, I was right. Very few people really know about it. Those of you who do know about it do, but I think less than 10% of the population of this city is aware that Angela's exist. And if I can get it up to 12, 15%, I can open a second store.
Hey, well, that's why we're here today, Steve. And on that note,
Good.
Why we're here, we'd love to hear from you and learn from you and learn the skills of becoming a charcuterie master. Yes, I coined that term, no trademark.
Okay.
So you can jump right into the demo. And I know you have your setup all ready to go, but to orient everybody here, if you want to give us a brief overview, maybe your first 5 tips and tricks, and then just jump right in. And then for the audience as well,
Okay.
if you are following along with the charcuterie demo, or if you're just banking the knowledge away to prepare your charcuterie board in the future, feel free to just unmute yourselves, ask questions, and I'm sure Steve will be able to answer them. And if you don't want to do that, you can also drop in the chat any questions, and I will help moderate that as well. So without further ado, over to you, Steve.
Okay. Are you monitoring the chat? Because I see it light up, but my hands are busy with that.
Yep. No need to pay attention over here.
I'm going to teach you some of my insider tips and tricks that I don't know at other stores how they do it. I only know how I do it here because I'm the only one who does these charcuterie boards until I get more staff and I can train them. So I've just developed some tips and tricks. Plus, I've been doing this for 30 years. I love making charcuterie boards. So however you guys who are watching, however you find your style and your groove, go with it and develop it for you. Don't try and be Gordon Ramsay or Martha Stewart or whoever. Go with your style, the meats and cheeses and fruits and vegetables you like, and make it your own. That's how I do my charcuterie boards. I took a class last night, actually, because I was curious how they teach and what they teach. This is what they made, and actually I saved it because I wanted to see how it weathers overnight. So you can see, you know, in the middle, where is it? Over there, there's a meat flour. There's fresh fruit, there's edible flowers, there's goat cheese, a blueberry crusted goat cheese, mustard, jellies, crackers. So this is the way they do it. I'm not going to do it this way because it's difficult for me to replicate this. I had a teacher who showed me this style, and I learned a few things, and I'll share them with you. So the other thing, if anybody's watching at home, whatever you have for a knife, a small knife is all you need to do 90% of what we're going to do here. If you're highfalutin and fancy and you have a soft cheese knife and a wire cutter, you're ahead of the groove. If you don't worry. And if you did get some goat cheese or some blue cheese or some soft cheese and you don't have a knife, you all have dental floss at home, right? I learned that last night. This is a great little trick. All right, so can you see this clear? So this is an old roofing tile from a 100-year-old house that a contractor gave me 100 pieces to make signs. I'm using them for charcuterie boards. I'm using the backside that has never been exposed to the weather. It's been sterilized and sanitized. So one of my tricks is I always, any charcuterie board from Angela's has, I see you, Lauren, always has honeycomb in the middle. So what I do with, I'm going to use this knife because it's easier. You can see how I've taken a piece out. My background in architecture has taught me a few things about geometry. So I'm just going to cut it in half, and it's a sticky mess. Deal with it. Okay, then you use your knife. How can I show you this? I don't know. Use your knife and gently lift it up. Get it unstuck. This is where you wish you had gloves. Hold it gently. Look at that health and nutrients right there. Okay, then I drop it on the board. Sometimes it falls on the board. So then I take the honey that's in there, scoop it up. And if you're making this for yourself and your friends, you're not a business, you can use your fingers, you can taste it along the way. You can have fun with it. Why local honeycomb? This is I love sharing this in the COVID world. Local honeycomb, raw honeycomb, is the best thing you can put in your body to build your immunity to the zip code you live in. We have 3 honey producers that are all within, they all touch Manchester or they are in Manchester proper. So this is one of my tips here. I put the honey on the slate. I'm going to move it into the middle, but I spread that around, and then just with a basic spatula, you just spread it around. And what this does is it makes everything stick to the board. So if you're transporting it or putting a jar of jelly on it or a cup of meat, whatever it is, the honey helps keep it in place. So then you know, honey's so sticky it makes a mess. So that's trick number 1. Now, trick number 2, I take a jar of honey. There's a window here. There we go. I take a jar of honey and I coat the honeycomb with fresh honey just to make it look super gooey, ooey, oozing with honey if it comes out of the jar. We'll do that later as it trickles down. So that's the first step. Everyone can hear me okay?
Loud and clear, Steve.
So my next step is to build up the elevation of the charcuterie board with dried fruit or nuts. So I'm taking a handful of cherries. Another trick is don't just dump the cherries. Go through them one by one and pull them apart, kind of fluff them up a bit, and just drop, a dozen or so on the board. Think of it as a Kandinsky or Moreau print or Picasso. It's not a Renoir or a Matisse that we're trying to achieve. So it doesn't have to be perfect or symmetrical. So I do that, and then I take a handful of pistachios, trickle them on. That's it. And, you know, they stay because there's honey to keep them there. All right, so now the next step. I don't know what you guys got for meats and cheeses. The colder they are, the better. Our cheese boards always have imported prosciutto di Parma, which is, to me, the best meat in the world. Always eat it as you go. Make sure it's good. So this is a piece of prosciutto. I'm going to do it on my hand so you can see how I do it. I don't know that you can see down here, and that's because I smashed my fingers, so it's some therapeutic thing. So what you do is you take it, the fat side up or out. And it's very important when you eat prosciutto, it should have fat. Fat is a very important part of the process of prosciutto. Hi, Jennifer Roach. I can't really do it like that, so I'll do it on the honey. So what you want to do is you lay it down and you fold it back and forth on itself, moving downward, so you end up with a piece of prosciutto that looks like that, so you see the fat. Okay? So I'm going to do that now on the board. You can see I can go much faster here. I use my finger to weave it in and out. It's much easier to do. That's the beauty of prosciutto. You want to show it off. You don't want to hide it, and you got to eat it. Don't be a fat freak and get rid of it. It's a very important part of the board. The other thing is all the cheeses and meats are coming right out of the refrigerator now. It usually takes a good 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, to put these together. And by the time you're done, everything is tempered and it's perfect time for eating. And in general, all these cheeses and meats should see room temperature for at least 45 minutes before you eat them. All right, so again, I'm just going to make a ribbon out of the prosciutto. And in the fancy chef world, they call this mise en place. Get everything in its place first, so you have everything ready to go before you try and assemble the final pieces. Does anybody want to ask questions if you're following along?
I think I have a newbie question, but
Okay.
would you ever recommend utilizing toothpicks to keep them in their ribbon state? Or is that an amateur move?
You don't need ribbons with this because it stays down. And I try and make my charcuterie 100% edible. I don't use fancy decorations or doilies or anything like that. I want you to be able to eat everything with your hands and make a mess of it. So this is a new meat from Uruguay. It's called Grasola. It's a dry, air-cured beef. I'd eat, but it doesn't look good on camera. Same thing. We're going to roll that into a ribbon. This one doesn't have hardly any fat, but oh my God, is it delicious. And again, I'm not trying to impress the queen. I'm trying to make a beautiful, abstract charcuterie board. And again, this is my style. This is what I've learned to do. This is what works for me. This is what looks pretty on our boards. So we go with it. So now I'm going to get to the rolled meat. Rolled being like a bologna is a loaf, if you will. Rolled. This is from Italy. Americans don't think much of mortadella because of the chunks of fat in it, but this is where bologna in America came from, is mortadella. This is one of the best meats in the world. Americans just don't really favor it. So there's a couple things you can do with this. What I do is I fold it in half upon itself and then fold it in a quarter again, so you get a quarter moon. Okay? Again, that's the way I do it. So I'll do that a couple times with slices. And then I lay it out sort of in a fan I just stand it upon itself right here. Now I'll show you a trick I learned last night. This is a piece of salami that was folded in half. You push one away from you and one towards you, and it makes a meat flower or a petal of a flower. Okay? So I'll show you how we did that. I was happy to learn that. So you take this, you just cut it in half. Take one piece towards the middle, one piece towards the back, so you end up with that. Okay? Again, one piece towards the middle, one piece towards the back, so you got a real simple thing. And then you just stack them all on themselves and spread them out, and you'll be able to stand them up on your board. So that's the meats. The next thing is we're going to go on to the cheeses. And again, if you don't have those fancy tools, don't worry about it. So for cheeses tonight, one of the best cheeses in the world is a Colston Bassett Blue Stilton. This in a bathtub is all you really need at night. This is they're all some of the best cheeses in the world. A French triple cream named after a gastronome called Savarin. After an hour, this will just start collapsing and falling, and you just mop it up with the bread, the nuts, the cheese, the meats, and have fun at it. Kind of a trick I've learned with getting these packages open is I gotta work backwards here. Hold on. I gotta wash this. Because if I don't wash it, it sticks to everything.
I have
Any questions?
I have a question. So I have some chorizo here, but I often do like pepperoni slices or other sausagey link things of salted meat. What's the best way?
Yep.
I just end up what's the best way to display those?
Whatever is the best way for you to do them. whether it's stacked or you fan them out. But cheers to everyone. I'm going to show you how to use a common glass at home to make a beautiful flower. So I'm just opening the Briat Savarin, to getting it in place, putting it on my board. And then I have a 3-year cheddar, which is I'm going to cube. And again, I think this is a great little trick. You slide the knife under, cut it open. You don't ruin the cheese. You're not squeezing it. You're not destroying it. Am I going too fast? Am I ADD? How's everyone doing out there?
No, you're doing great. I have a few comments, maybe not questions, but some comments to share with you from the chat. One is from Kate White. She said that she loves your cheese selection at Angela's, especially because you carry Wookiee whole cheese, which is actually from the area in the UK where she's from.
Excellent.
And then another question, not a question, another comment is that actually maybe this is more of a request. You need truffle mortadella.
Working on that. I personally don't. I only like real truffles. Chef made me something with truffle oil yesterday, and I said that it's artificial. I can tell. That's just me though. But we sell a ton of truffle, and I'm trying to move it all to authentic, real truffles. And there's a tricky little thing they do with the words and the ingredients, so you know whether it's real truffles or truffle flavoring sort of thing. So we might, and I want to get a mortadella that's like this big around as well. So working on that. And to Kate, I sent out a quote today for a wedding cheesecake with Wookiee whole. So I hope to be doing more wedding cakes made out of cheese. All right, so this Colston Bassett Stilton, if you have a knife, any small knife, I'm just going to cut the rind off, and then I'll show you how to make it pretty. And I lied, I'm actually going to use the wire because the wire works great. Can you see this? No. Can you see this? So now if you're working at home, we're going to cut triangles of the blue cheese. If you're working at home with a small knife, you don't want to use a big knife for this. You don't want a lot of surface area when you're cutting soft cheeses because it destroys the cheese and breaks it apart. What you want to do, though, is you want to cut from the small end to the thick end to reduce the contact of the blade. But that's what happens with a knife, right? I don't have an answer to that. And the piece of cheese gets broken. But if you use your dental floss, just wrap it just like you're doing your teeth and saw through it. I'm going to use the wire. And I'm going to cut pieces about 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch thick. Every blue cheese has its own, I don't know, cutting point, if you will, where some need to be thicker than that, and some, if they're creamier, you can get away with thinner, and they won't crumble. So it's trial and error. And again, it doesn't matter because you're going to put it all on the board, and it'll all disappear. And what doesn't disappear, you have breakfast in the morning with the leftovers. So you just cut a few pieces like that. The rind of Colston Bassett is not edible, so we're going to leave it off the board. Okay, so that's that. So now I'm going to get this ready for how we're going to present it. And this is really simple. I don't know what the best angle is. I suppose like this. Leave the first piece down, take the second piece, and just flip it over. Next piece down, take the next piece, flip it over. And handle it as little as possible. Leave the next piece standing, next piece down, next piece standing, so you end up with that. And you can pull it together as you get it on your board. All right? Cheddar, I like points of cheddar, not squares. It's that architect in me. So, whoop. I'm going to cut it diagonally. Cut it diagonally again. Can you see that? And you want to think about, you know, social etiquette and stuff. Do you want someone taking a chunk like that? Probably not. It's probably a little too big to be decent.
Steve,
So
that
then
is
you
such
just
a
cut 'em
great
again.
tip. That's such a great tip, doing the points instead of trying to slice it.
Well, thank you. Again, I'm always thinking like an architect. I get accused of it all the time, but that's my life.
Steve, we have a really good question from the chat.
Okay.
How does one know if cheese rind is edible or not?
I don't have the absolute answer because, you know, a cheese as simple as manchego, depending on who made it. Some of them use a wax rind, some of them use an ash rind. So you have to ask where you're buying it from, whether or not it's edible. And obviously wax is not edible. Manchego actually has a lot of it, the more common stuff has a wax rind. All those big fat creamy bries, and which is a double cream, which means fat content, and triple cream, which means, you know, you can see the fat just oozing out of that. 100% edible and very essential to the full flavor of the cheese. So I don't have a if it's yellow, don't eat it. If it's red, you can eat it sort of thing. It's not that simple. It just takes time and experience eating it. But wherever you buy your cheese, they should be able to answer that. All right, so I've got my cheeses set up. I cut the cheddar into points. Again, I'm not touching it. I'm touching it as little as possible. I don't want to put fingerprints on it because it's starting to warm up. The blue's ready to go. The cheddar's ready to go. I showed you this. All this is ready to go. So I don't know what a better word is, but they call them meat flowers. Can everyone see here pretty well?
We can,
So
Steve. We had one request to see the cheddar points up close one last time, just to make sure
Okay.
the intricate cut is
Someone's going to take a screenshot. I know it.
And for everybody, if you didn't see the chat, this program is being recorded. So we will get it uploaded to YouTube so you can refer back to it when you are entertaining. Perfect. Thank you.
The camera's totally backwards. Very difficult to get through. All right, so this is I don't know if any of you came in to get this. We sliced up some Furman Iberico ham, pork from the brown pigs of Spain. Phenomenal, phenomenal salami. And by the way, pepperoni is salami. It's just Americanized as pepperoni, but it's a salami like every other salami we have. And these are a bit small. They call these coins because they're little quarters. So take your glass. Should have been clean. I washed my hands before we started. I meant to say that sort of cheekily. Just wash your hands before you start building this. So you're just going to put these. I can tell already the salami's a bit too small for it. But you're just going to circle the glass, overlapping the pieces. And we'll hope for the best when we're done. So after you make your first round, if you will, and you cover the rim of the glass, that's the outside of the flour. I like to start pushing them down in to make the flour rise, if you will, to the stamen. Stamen being the part of the flour that the bees go for the pollen. So I'll show you, I'm just starting to layer it in. And again, I'm pretty sure the Queen of England's not watching, so I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just trying to keep it together and show you guys some fun stuff. And, you know, you do this, I say it to my child, you know, I wasn't really good at brushing my teeth till I was a teenager because I've been doing it for 10 years. The first time you do this, you're not going to be an expert. Don't give up. Keep doing it and you'll teach yourself tricks. So I'm done through the salami. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Then I'm just going to poke it through, try and open up the flour. You can kind of see on the inside what it looks like. And then I'm going to hope for the best and dump it on the board. You can see the board here. And I don't have a set place where it's going to go, but I like to put the flowers on the outside of the board. So you just throw it upside down, lift up the glass, and hope for the best. So I can assure you that if this was salami that was a larger diameter, it works a lot better. Things like this only happen on TV, but it's falling apart because the salami is too small. That's all right. We're going to make it pretty by the end. All right, so we have 3 more meats to deal with and 3 cheeses. You want to keep the cheeses and the meats sort of not touching, and you want to leave room for the fruit and nuts so that if anybody's vegetarian or vegan, they can at least grab a few things that didn't touch something they didn't get to. I always build with my meat first, and then I put the cheese after. So unless you got a big honking slice of cheese like this Briat Savarin. So I take the prosciutto. Can you see this? No? I take the prosciutto and I stack it like you're holding a deck of cards and you're playing Uno. Okay? I got a 3 of hearts. What do you got? So you just stack it. Okay? You fan it out like a deck of cards. Drop it on the board. I'm doing the same thing with the Grasola. Stack it like a deck of cards. I'm trying not to squish it or compress it. I'm just trying to lightly layer it so it makes, you know, a fan. Then lastly is the mortadella. I take the pile of mortadella, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, and then you fan it out so it makes a wheel. And that's just the quarters, just rotated through on your board before you built it. So that's a meat board right now. Chorizo, I can't do my hands. Grasola, mortadella, prosciutto. Imported prosciutto, the finest stuff from Italy. So that's that. Then we get into the cheeses. Use a knife because it makes it a little easier to get under this pile of triple creamness. Pick it up, find its center of gravity, give it a little support. Now, creamy cheeses like this don't do well on their side. And as you're eating this triple cream, you want to be breaking through, getting the rind. You want to break through to get the rind, the cream, and the rind on the bottom to get the complete flavor. All right, you can see this okay? So I'm just going to put this Stilton back together now. Again, touching it lightly. It's warming up, so it's getting more crumbly. I'm going to turn my board around so I can grab it with a knife. I'm going to lightly hold it together, get the knife in the middle, pick it all up, drop it on the board, like that. I keep reaching, this is a wet cloth I keep cleaning my hands with. So lastly is the cheddar. And because it's just a bunch of points, just going to try and make some fun decoration. And sometimes I overcompensate and I have too much stuff on the board, so that gives you the opportunity to stack it up. And cheddar's a bit sticky onto itself, so it's kind of fun to work with because you can build it up. And you want to clean your hands between each course anyways. If someone doesn't like blue and you took the knife or your dirty hands with the blue and contaminated everything, you're going to have unhappy friends. So stack the cheddar up. So the base of the board is built. We're pretty much done. The Stilton's not behaving. All right. So now a couple of accoutrements. Take a handful of cherries again, if craisins, cherries, whatever you use. Just go through and get them unstuck from each other so someone thinks you put an effort in to not just drop a clump of craisins on there because they often get stuck in the bag. Stuck together to themselves. Okay? So I'm going to put a nice little pile here of sweetness, tartness. All right, that's enough for that. Have these Spanish caramelized walnuts. Hopefully some of you got them. Take a handful of those. Put those at the other end. Then, another trick. My staff laughs at me, but that's okay. If you take a fig out of the package, can you see this? You know, it's hard, and these are fresh. You just got them in. I don't know. I call it pumping. I take the fig and I pump it. Just by pushing it back and forth by holding the stem, it kind of reconstitutes the insides of it and makes it soft and tender, almost like a fresh. And you can hear it. It's starting to make noise again because it's loosening up. So you just pump the fig a couple times to soften it. Stick it down there. Again, take the top of it, squeeze it together to kind of make it look like it was once a fresh fig, and just, can you hear that? It sounds like I'm filling a tire. So pump your fresh figs, a couple. So this is a board for two. 2 figs is more than enough. Some nutritionists think 2 figs before a workout is the ideal amount of energy. A couple of organic, sorry, not organic. If they're organic apricots, they'd be brown because they don't have sulfur dioxide. So just flatten them out, take them apart from each other, layer, put them in a nice array. Drop them on the board. And then I have some fresh grapes here. You can see this. Kitchen shears are the best thing to cut grapes with. And when you buy grapes, hopefully you buy organic, because if they're not organic, they're on the dirty 15 list. But you cut, oh, what I wanted to say though is always when you buy grapes, look for the greenness of the vine or whatever it's called, the stalk. The greener it is, the fresher it is, the longer they'll last. So then you just cut a few pieces off. This is the only inedible part of my cheese board, but every human knows you can't eat the, whatever that thing is called. So just dabble a few around the board. You can take them apart if you want to completely remove the grape stalk, vine, whatever it's called. And as I'm cutting them, you want to, you know, you don't want to end up with one grape in a stalk. You remove that. What you want, ideally, is, you know, a couple on a stalk. And you turn it upside down so you don't see that stalk. You kind of present the fruit. And then macadamias. Just going to put a cute little pile right there. Paint a happy sunset. We're done.
Gorgeous. All right. Hold on, leave it right there. I got to take a photo for everybody.
Mine does not quite look like that, but I realize my board is a little big for what I have. So it's all like spaced out a lot.
Perfect. Thank you, Steve. Another great question from the chat. Do you ever consider putting chocolate pieces in your boards?
Well, that's a great question. Yes, we put Angela's English coffee with sea salt on it. Because see this ginormous piece? It cracks beautifully like the cheddar and makes like nice sharp glacier pieces. So yes, we do. Whatever the customer asks for, we try and accommodate. You know, I want to get into single serve charcuteries, chocolate charcuteries. They make vegan charcuteries. There's a world of opportunity, but until I have 3 more employees, I'm kind of limited to what we can put out here. But
well,
yeah,
thank you
a customer
so much.
came in. You're welcome. Thank you all.
It was a wonderful
Does
demo.
anyone-
Really appreciate your time and effort and your attention to detail. That we learned a lot of really great tips and tricks. And you know, if you ever are doing another charcuterie class, hopefully one day we can see you in person and participate and see the architect at work.
I would open up the shop to this group and do a hands-on training in the kitchen right there. And we can do all this together, and I can go around and show you all to teach you some skills. But again, it's just like, you know, brushing your teeth. You got to do it a few times before you find your groove. And whatever your groove is, go with it and develop it. Don't try and be someone else. Just be yourself and find your pattern. Whatever works for you works. And as you can see, this is how I make it, right? This is how I was taught last night. It's not my style, so I'm not going to kill myself to replicate this.
Awesome. Well,
Did
I will.
anybody make one at home that I can see? Anybody?
I know Lauren was making hers. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and Trixie's is beautiful, but I think she might have eaten it.
I didn't understand the assignment. I made it before we started, so mine.
Trixie's is really
Beautiful.
good. I shared a picture of hers prior to munching on on the MYP Instagram page.
Jillian's yours
Love it.
looks wonderful.
Oh, let me see. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, I feel like a failure. That one's good too.
I think Jillian takes the prize. Or Trixie.
Great job.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for spending your afternoon with us and participating in the charcuterie demo. I'll follow up with some resources and some of the highlights from tonight's demo. Also with some information on how you can get connect with Steve and Angela's and support his business and a business that is made in Manchester. So I will, I'll send that out shortly. And also the program has been recorded, so we'll be uploading this to our YouTube page. So stay tuned. You'll see that come through on social media, but also as a follow-up email as well. So thank you all very much. Have a great evening, and I hope to see you all in person soon, hopefully at Angela's.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.